All right, man. All right. Can't run from it. We can't run from it, man. Here we go. Here we go. Sixers post-game live after an absolutely embarrassing performance against the Detroit Pistons without Cade Cunningham, without Jaden Ivey. And guys, I'm having deja vu, man. This game felt exactly like some of the first games of the season. This game felt exactly like some of the first games of the season, where a team who is old and injured gets run off the floor by a team full of young, hungry dogs. A team full of privileged, overpaid, washed, old, injured bums gets run off the floor by a team full of hungry players who have something to fight for. You know, hungry dogs run faster, you know? You know? Think about it, man. If you put two dogs next to each other, all right, and you put a piece of steak 100 yards away, and one of the dogs is famished, hasn't eaten for a month, and the other dog's been eating good, bro. The other dog's been eating good. He lives with a nice family. He's got a comfy dog bed in the living room. He's got a box full of toys and treats. Which dog's getting to the steak first? The hungry one, right? He's going to sprint his ass off down that 100-yard line. While the fat dog is going to take his good old time climbing out of his comfy dog bed. And he'll be like, you got it, bro. You can have it. I'm good. You know what I'm saying, man? And that's what I'm seeing once again with this Sixers team. And it's just right back to where it was, man. Shout out to everybody in here. 245 in here, man. Hit the like button for the fact that we're even doing this. Hit the like button for the fact that we're still watching these games. I did it again. You know, the Sixers won 5 out of 7. They beat the Bulls. They beat the Kings. They beat the Lakers. And they competed with the Denver Nuggets. They competed with the Boston Celtics. And I started to believe that they were turning a corner. For some reason, I thought that Nick Nurse was beginning to understand that you have to play young athletes in the National Basketball Association to win games. And Joel Embiid came back from injury. Pinky P, Podcast P, Pauldo, as Evan Turner calls him, Pauldo, because he disappears and you can't find him. He comes back from his brutal pinky injury with a brace on. And Kyle Lowry comes back from a hip injury. You know, he's had 4 hip injuries this season. He's had more hip injuries than my grandma because they're the same age. He comes back from injury. Eric Gordon comes back from injury. Nick Nurse starts playing these guys in the Nick nursing home lineups again. You know, the first 3 games of the season, I was screaming, why am I watching Eric Gordon and Kyle Lowry on my TV screen in big 2024-2025 season? And we're right back. We're right back to the Nick nursing home lineups We're right back to Joel Embiid with the biggest knee brace you've ever seen in your life, jogging up and down the floor, not playing any defense, not boxing out, not trying to grab a rebound. We're right back to Podcast P, treating every game like it's preseason warm-ups, just jogging around, shoot a couple jump shots, and go home and record a podcast. And it's sad, man. It's sad, but we're right back. The 76ers got blown out from the jump in this game by the Detroit Pistons without their two best players. And it was shades of that Denver Nuggets game when Nick Nurse was screaming at them in the locker room after the game and the Denver media could hear him screaming. It was a flat out just embarrassing showing by basically everybody. But it starts with Joel Embiid. And I talk about Nick Nurse, I talk about Kyle Lowry, I talk about Ricky Council being DNP'd again for no fucking reason. I talk about Podcast P. I talk about all this stuff. And a lot of you guys tell me I don't talk about Joel Embiid enough, and you're absolutely right, I don't. And some of the games, the beginning of the season when he came back, I was ripping him because it looked like he didn't care. And then he would go in the post game and be like, I've given too much to this city to be treated like this and all this stuff. I saw it again in this game, man. Joel Embiid's body language, what he did over the past 8 years, playing through injury and fighting and putting his body on the line, he feels like he earned that extension that he got. And he feels like now he doesn't have to go extra. He doesn't have to give the extra effort. He doesn't have to... He doesn't have to go 100% because he did that for 8 years. So we should be appreciative of what he did, and now we should lay off him. Move what I mean. That's his body language right now. He looks like he does not care. Paul George always looks like he doesn't care. And Tyrese Maxey was shooting bricks. And I can't say Tyrese Maxey looks like he doesn't care, but Tyrese Maxey looked like he was just out of rhythm. I mean, he was 9 for 20. He was 4 for 10 from 3. Those are decent percentages. That's 48% from the field and 40% from 3. But Tyrese Maxey was a minus 19 and never really looked like he was in a groove. I'm going to say something right now, and you can do with it what you want. This team, in the last 10 games, has been better without Joel Embiid and Paul George. And I don't have to look up the stats to know that. They won 4 in a row. They won 5 out of 7. And I don't have to look up the stats to know that they scored more points per game. They played better defense and held other teams to less points per game. They rebounded better. They hustled better. Their transition defense was better. I don't have to look up the stats to know that. Because when Nick Nurse was forced to play lineups full of young athletes, the team was better. And this is what you're seeing in the NBA. The Oklahoma City Thunder they might be still the youngest team in the NBA. The Houston Rockets, one of the youngest teams in the NBA. 76ers, oldest team in the NBA. It's not rocket science. If I told somebody that never watched sports, hey, the oldest team in the NBA lost 31 games before the All-Star break, they'd be like, well, yeah. Seems like it makes sense. They're the oldest team in a league full of young players. It's a young man's game. It's a 25-year-old's game. Your joints, your ligaments, your muscles, your body. It's a 25-year-old's game. It's not a 35-year-old's game. So yeah, what else happened, man? They were down by 1 million in the first quarter. They made a run when Podcast P and Joel Embiid went to the bench. Nick Nurse in the first quarter. You know, I want to shout out the fact that he's playing Quentin Grimes and he likes Quentin Grimes, it looks like, and Quentin Grimes is getting the automatic respect from Nick Nurse, so that's a good thing because he's only 24 years old, and I expected Nick Nurse to not play him at all. So at least Nick Nurse trusts Quentin Grimes, and I'm going to talk about him in a second because he looks great. He had 28 minutes in the game. But Nick Nurse in the first quarter found a way to play a 4-guard lineup. And when the 76ers at the trade deadline traded Reggie Jackson for Quentin Grimes, and then they traded a 2026 first-round pick for Jared Butler, I tweeted, if Reggie Jackson or if Eric Gordon and Kyle Lowry play significant minutes in this game, I'm going to find Nick Nurse in the parking lot. And that was a joke because I'm not in the parking lot. I'm not anywhere near it. But he said, okay, you give me Quentin Grimes, that's cool. I'm still going to play Kyle Lowry and Eric Gordon at the same time in the NBA in 2025. I'm still going to do that. It's just crazy to me. And a run happened there again with that lineup because that's a disastrous lineup. I can't. I was saying the same thing the beginning of the season. Do I have to keep saying it? Kyle Lowry and Eric Gordon are too old and slow to play defense in the NBA. Just like my other example, I could take a person who never watched basketball and I could show them this and I could say, what looks wrong here? And they would probably go, well, the short, slow, why is that short, slow guy out there? Without knowing any rules of the game. They would say, why is there a short, slow guy on the floor? Because it looks like everybody else is tall and fast. So I think the first thing you should do is take that short, slow guy off the floor. There was a play in the second quarter where Eric Gordon drove to the rim on the left side, if you want to call it a drive. It looks more like a fat guy tripping off of a curb. He threw a floater off of the glass, didn't even hit the rim. Kyle Lowry got the offensive rebound with nobody near him and missed a wide open layup right in front of the rim. Got the rebound again and missed again. It looks like two mentally challenged midgets trying to throw the ball in a hoop. How is this what I'm watching? And that might be offensive. Let me rephrase that. It looks like two 8-year-olds. That's what it looks like. You ever go to like, hey man, our little cousin's playing basketball at the rec center. Let's go watch. And you're like, oh, this is gonna suck. You know? It looks like two little kids out there trying to like throw the ball up into the rim. It's crazy that these guys are out there, man. It's crazy. The Sixers went on a 20-4 run in the third quarter. And then Nick Nurse went back to it again in the fourth. They made a run with, at one point got it down to 15 with a Kelly Oubre drive and a Quentin Grimes drive and a Paul George 3. The Pistons were going ice cold. It really looked like we were making a comeback. Everybody in the chat told me it's just another fake comeback. I should have known that. I was really back in. I thought they could come back in and win the game. I thought the Pistons went cold, and maybe the first half they were just on fire unrealistically, and they got it down to 11. Paul George got benched at the end of the game, by the way, which that's interesting. Paul George did not play the last 4 minutes of this game. Kyle Lowry did. Kyle Lowry played what felt like the entire fourth quarter, which is, I just can't figure it out. I just can't figure it out, man. I just can't figure it out. Let's look at the fourth quarter minutes. Kyle Lowry played 7 minutes in the fourth quarter. And he gave you a goose egg and 1 assist. Kyle Lowry played 7 minutes in the fourth quarter. 0 points, 1 assist. I cannot for the life of me come up with a reason that this guy is playing the minutes that he's playing at 39 years old, besides the fact that Nick Nurse is his best friend. There's no actual logical reason. Nobody can explain it to me. Justin Edwards, who was a huge part of those 5 wins over 7 games. 0 minutes last game in the fourth quarter that they lost. Justin Edwards, 6'6", 205, undrafted out of Kentucky, was a high school All-American. Nick Nurse was finally playing him. He scored 26 points off the bench against the Boston Celtics. Last game, 0 fourth quarter minutes for Justin Edwards. Tonight, 2 minutes in the fourth quarter for Justin Edwards. And then you add in the last 2 games, Ricky Council. Last game, Ricky Council was DNP'd until the end of the third quarter for no reason. Another guy that was a massive part of those 5 wins out of 7 games, was a massive part of changing the energy of this team, was a massive part of just, giving us fun basketball to watch for a while. And the lineups of Justin Edwards, Ricky Council, and Adem Bona in those games where everybody was hurt was such a breath of fresh air. And they were competing. They won 4 in a row. They won 5 out of 7. They went down to the wire with the Nuggets. They blew out the Lakers. They went down to the wire with the Celtics. It was fun to watch. They were competing, and they were hanging in there because they had size, athleticism, and youth on the floor. Ricky Council was a major part of that. Last game, Ricky Council doesn't get minutes until the end of the third. Tonight, Ricky Council was basically a DNP. He did not put Ricky Council on the floor until the game was over and he threw in the towel. And Ricky Council hit a 3 in just 2 minutes and 11 seconds of playing time. Ricky Council scored 3 points and was a +6. I just cannot, for the life of me, figure out this coach. It just does not make sense. This is how he started the beginning of the season. Getting blown out by teams like this by doing exactly what he did tonight. And then when all of his favorite players got injured and he was forced to play all the young guys, they started winning games and competing. And now all of his favorite players came back from injury and we're right back to where we were. And it's obvious, and he can't figure it out. That's the craziest part about it. He can't figure it out. He's so frustrated on the sideline. He's like, oh my God, why can't we get a rebound with Kyle Lowry and Eric Gordon on the floor? Why can't we guard the rim with 4 6'2" guards on the floor? Why can't we play defense or get a rebound or guard the rim with all of these small, slow players on the floor? He can't figure it out. Again, somebody that never watched the game would look at it and say, well, you should probably get those 2 small, slow guys off the floor, right? But a coach who's coached the game for 40 years and has won championships in multiple leagues, 2 in the British League, 1 in the G League, 1 in the NBA, is totally lost. Because he's so blinded by the way he thinks you know what I mean? This is what these coaches do. Doc Rivers the same way. These old head experienced coaches, they're so blinded by what they believe wins games. They can't see what's just so obvious. And Joel Embiid and Paul George, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to have two max contract guys who play like this. And I got news for you guys. Against the Mavericks, Joel Embiid had a 20-point triple-double. And some people on Twitter came at me for still being negative because he was a minus 15. But he was a minus 15 because every time he was on the floor, the Mavericks made a run. Every time he went to the bench, the Sixers made a run. Joel Embiid in that game where he had a 29-point triple-double was not good. And I said it after that game, and people hated it. But I watched it. I watched them make a run and come back every time he went out of the game. Because he's not hustling, he's not boxing out, he's not rebounding, he's not even defending the rim. He's not trying to block shots. Paul Reed tried to dunk on him and he blocked that shot, but for the most part, he's not. Adem Bona had a block in this game from behind on Jalen Duren. And I said if that was Joel, he wouldn't have jumped to block that shot and Jalen Duren would have had a wide open dunk. I'm watching it happen. I'm watching guys who have something to prove play hard and give extra effort, and I'm watching guys who no longer have anything to prove play like it's a fucking preseason game, dude. And they don't care. And Paul George is just going to come out and go, oh, it's just nice to get another game, and get my legs under me again and get back into rhythm, and I'm working on trusting the pinky brace, it's real tough to play with an injured pinky on my non-shooting hand. What a disgrace. And he says it with serious. He's being dead serious. The guy is so delusional, it's unbelievable. I'm watching delusion every year with this team. If it's Ben Simmons, if it's Paul George, even James Harden when he was here was delusional. When he was out of shape and was stinking up the joint, he was delusional. Paul George might be. Paul George and Ben Simmons, top 5 delusional NBA players. Because Ben Simmons thinks he's good. He thinks he should be on a contender right now. Paul George is playing terribly, is getting destroyed by the fan base on social media, but he'll come out in the press conference and act like, oh, it was nice to get my feet under me and I'm trying to trust the pinky brace. Like he thinks what he's saying makes sense. And then you listen to his podcast. Oh my God. He says things on the podcast without even doing research. He told Andre Drummond, the Pistons are good, are playing good right now. He told this to Andre Drummond on his podcast, I swear to God. He said, yeah, I'm sure what they got back in the trade for you, was part of building that team. The Pistons got like 2 future second-round picks in the Andre Drummond trade. He couldn't even Google what did the Pistons get in the Andre Drummond trade before he said something that dumb. And I don't listen to his podcast, by the way. People just send me clips of him saying dumb things. But yeah, the Sixers are led by a couple of out-of-shape, injured old people. The coach loves it, and he loves playing his short, old, slow guys again. We're right back to where we were in the beginning of the season. And the team got blown out by the Detroit Pistons without their 2 best players. The only bright spot of this game is Quentin Grimes. And Quentin Grimes is fantastic. Fantastic. From the first minute, fantastic. Great 3-point shooter. Great feel for the game. Great at getting to his spots. A good team player, facilitator. Plays hard. Has a nice center of gravity. Has a nice, strong build. Quentin Grimes, great player. Great trade. Glad he's here. And I'm glad Nick Nurse trusts him. I just wish we could change, some other things about the team, and we can't. We can't do that. I think that's all I have. Listen, I'm going to let you guys, give your thoughts. I'm going to sit here and react to the chat for a couple of minutes. Super chats first. members in the chat first. And we'll go from there. But I got to tell you that this is brought to you by Game Time Ticket app. Go over to Game Time Ticket app, use promo code CLNS, and get $20 off your ticket purchase. Go over there, type in 76ers if you want to go to Sixers games for dirt cheap. They are dirt cheap right now because the team sucks. And Game Time shows you how dirt cheap they are. Here you go. What's that? That's March, January, February. Why am I in March? But anyway, Game Time filters out the fluff, man. They show you all of the best deals so you don't have to sort through tickets on all kinds of different apps and waste your time, trying to find them. Listen, if you want to go to the Sixers-Bucks game before the Super Bowl on Sunday and then head on over to Xfinity Live to watch the Super Bowl, that sounds like a great Sunday, But you gotta go just for the vibes. Shout out to RJ. Don't go expecting something. Just go just to be at an event, Or go there to boo the Sixers and tell Josh Harris to sell the team, and then go watch the Super Bowl at Xfinity Live. Game Time has the tickets starting at $13. Yes, you can go watch the Sixers versus Bucks in Philly on Sunday, and then go over to Xfinity Live for the Super Bowl for $13. Use promo code CLNS for $20 off. Game Time. Last minute deals, cheapest tickets, guaranteed. Thank you to Game Time for sponsoring the channel. What do you guys got for me in the chat, man? Jason A-Team. DJ, I hate to say it because I love the dude. Embiid just has to go. His body language and laziness is just so disgusting. Was not meant for Philly. Gross. Yeah, he didn't always play like this. I'm not going to say that he always played like this. I'll say that I loved the 8 years of Joel Embiid, and I loved what he gave to this team, and I loved that drafting him, took this team from not fun to watch for 10 years to fun to watch, and gave us hope and made us a contender and got us back into playoffs and got us back into the conversation and made us relevant again. And he was absolutely amazing for a lot of those years. And if you go watch, dude, if you want to cry tonight, if you want to cry real man tears, if you want to cry grown man tears, go YouTube Joel Embiid's rookie highlights. If you want to cry grown man tears, YouTube Joel Embiid's rookie highlights, man, and just watch them. And then watch him this year if you want to cry grown man tears. But no, they should have never signed him to the extension. That's what they did wrong. They signed him to a 3-year extension when he's probably he looks like he's on the verge of retirement. How do you sign him until 2029 at 30 years old? The average center in the NBA retires at 30 years old. The average age of retirement for NBA centers is 30 years old. Joel Embiid is 30 years old with multiple knee surgeries and constant conditioning question marks. They signed him for an extra 3 years after next season. Who the fuck signs an injured 30-year-old 7-footer until he's 35? Who does that? Can't trade him. Nobody's paying that money. There was another super chat up here. Let me scroll back up to it. Shout out to everybody in here, man. Thanks for hanging out. Who else was super chatting, man? Let's see. Brian Pumper. There's Brian Pumper. Our boy Brian Pumper. When the Sixers were looking good, winning some games, showing some effort, showing some signs. Brian Pumper was nowhere to be found. And then as soon as they started losing again, Brian Pumper came back. He said, yeah, my time to shine again. Brian Pumper said, Joel Embiid is playing like Angel Reese without the rebounding. We're watching a man who has lost it and he don't realize it. I agree. He's lost it. I agree. I don't know if he doesn't realize it. I think he knows it. I just think that he doesn't care, and he thinks that what he did the past 8 years is deserving of that extension, and Philly fans should be nice to him. I think that's what he thinks. Playing like Angel Reese is a bit extreme. Joel Embiid would dunk on Angel Reese with his left hand without his right leg with his eyes closed. Joel Embiid could play on one leg with his right arm tied behind his back and close his eyes and drop a 79-point triple-double on Angel Reese. But I get what you're saying. What other super chats we got, man? Philly Fred. Hey, bro, that's a dope name. That reminds me of Philly Freck, who used to rap with Fabulous on some of those mixtapes back in the day. Shout out to Philly Freck. But anyway, Philly Fred, Morey gave a 34-year-old loser $50 million a year. Yeah, let's look at Tobias Harris's stats in this game versus Paul George, because that's a good comparison, right? Tobias Harris had 8 points in the first quarter. Tobias Harris was 8 for 16. He had 22 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists, and was a +7. And Paul George, who replaced him for double the money, had 14 points, 1 rebound in 30 minutes, and was a -8. Tobias Harris, 22 and 9, 4 offensive rebounds, 3 assists, +7. Paul George, 14, 1 rebound in 30 minutes, and was a -8. And the Pistons paid Tobias Harris $25 million a year, and the 76ers paid Paul George $50 million per year. And that is just our luck. Now, I know you couldn't bring Tobias Harris back because he chokes and he's a choke artist, and none of this really means anything. But, you know, he scored 0 in the game 6 and we hated him. But $50 million for a guy that's playing considerably worse is just so Sixers, man. It's so Sixers. It's crazy. What else we got in the chat, man? Where the members at? Shout out to Sicko Nation, man. Shout out to Sicko Nation. Vlad, what's going on, man? Trust the brace, Paul. Trust the brace. Members, drop your takes in the chat, man. Pumper is a known hater. That is a fact. But Sixers suck, so, you know. Ryan Z, man, losing, no getting blown out by the Pistons without Cade or Ivy is a whole new level of embarrassment. Paul George washed. Embiid is washed. This was the final straw for me as a Sixers fan. I'm out. The Sixers have forced Ryan Z to completely stop watching this season. David, what's going on, bro? Thank you for being a member of the channel. Did you see or talk about Embiid and Oubre arguing on the bench? No, I didn't talk. I forgot to talk about it, and thank you so much for bringing it up. Yeah, there was a fast break that the Pistons had that was really a 1-on-2. I watched it a couple times. Kelly Oubre got beat, and then Joel Embiid picked up ball, and Joel Embiid didn't jump to try to defend the layup. And Kelly Oubre stopped running because Joel Embiid picked up ball. Joel Embiid turned around and yelled at Kelly Oubre. And Kelly Oubre yelled back at him on the bench. And I got to tell you guys, I'm on Kelly Oubre's side on this one. Who the hell is Joel Embiid to question somebody's effort? On a play where he quit. By the way, go watch the play. Joel Embiid picked up ball and didn't try to block the shot. and then yelled at Kelly Oubre. And Kelly Oubre is probably like, are you fucking kidding me? I've been busting my ass for this team every single night, all season long, 30, 40 minutes a game, diving on the floor, putting my body on the line. Blood, sweat, and tears every night. While you get paid $200 million to sit and nurse a knee injury all season. And you're going to yell at me? Yeah. I'm on Kelly Oubre's side on that one. Joel Embiid, I don't care if you're trying to be a leader or whatever it is. You are the wrong guy to be showing up once in a blue fucking moon and yelling at somebody for their effort. I'm sorry, bro. You're on the outside looking in. You don't get to show up once a month and yell at the players on the team. Why would Kelly Oubre take that from you? You show up once a month and you're going to yell at me? I should yell at you. Yeah, this team's a disaster, man. This team's a disaster, man. What else we got, man? All the other members went to sleep, dude. They were like, fuck this. David, PG should sit until his pinky heals so Council can get his minutes back. Nick Nurse is embarrassing, man. At what point do you fire the coach? Like, you know what I mean? It's just I feel like we're in chains, man. We're in purgatory. We're locked in a basement, you know? You guys ever watch the show The OA? We're locked in a basement, man. We can't get out because the owner doesn't care. That's the worst part about this. You can see the incompetence of the GM who signs a bunch of old guys in the offseason, gets ran out of the building, and then says, yeah, at the trade deadline, we knew we had to get younger. You're the one that signed all the old guys. And you can see the incompetence from the coach who's obsessed with playing the short, old guys because they're experienced and getting cooked. By the way, Eric Gordon got cooked in this game. Cooked. When he put Eric Gordon in the third quarter, bro, turnover, air ball, cooked on defense, cooked on defense, cooked on defense. But nothing will change because the owner does not care. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people react to it like, he needs to be fired. The GM needs to be fired for putting this team together. The owner doesn't care. The owner would have to care to fire the GM. Josh Harris is not watching the player transactions. Josh Harris is not watching the NBA and saying, yo, why are you playing Eric Gordon and Kyle Lowry? Josh Harris is not watching the NBA and saying, why didn't you trade Paul George at the deadline? Because that's a dead contract and you should have got rid of it. He's not watching. You would need an owner who's paying attention to the team to fire guys as a repercussion of the things that they're doing. It's not going to happen because the owner's not watching. Josh Harris doesn't know what Nick Nurse is doing or not doing. I don't even know if he knows who Nick Nurse is. Ryan Z, thanks for the super chat, man. I also just want to thank you for coming on here after every game and doing what you do. I appreciate it. Thanks, bro. It's honestly, again, I know a lot of people hit me up and say, like, thanks for, doing this. And it's like therapy when I watch these games and then I listen to you rant about it. But I want to tell you guys again, it works the same way, man. It works the same way in reverse. I used to watch Sixers games by myself in my bedroom. I was 12 years old, 10 years old probably. And my family wasn't a basketball family. They were football, baseball, hockey. They were wrestlers. I didn't have, my friends in school who watched sports in the NBA were the only people I would talk to about it. You know what I mean? And most of my adult life, I still watched this team every night, and I would just be in my house with my girlfriend or whoever yelling about what happened. And, so to be able to talk to literally thousands of people that understand what I'm saying is more therapeutic for me probably than it is for you, honestly. So y'all keep thanking me, but thank you also. You know what I mean? You weren't allowed to be a wrestler? I wasn't allowed to pick up a basketball. Oh, you were a wrestler, Henry? You weren't allowed to pick up a basketball? Dude, my parents tried to make me a wrestler when I was a kid. I was weak. You see me right now? I'm 38 years old. I'm a $185. And that's only because I lifted weights for 20 years. I was skinny and weak as hell. I got slammed on the mat, bro. I couldn't wrestle. I didn't have any strength. So then I found basketball. I was like, wait, there's a game where I can shoot the ball and the defense isn't allowed to touch me. That's my game. That's the game I want to play. And I started playing basketball. I started watching Allen Iverson. Honestly, I started paying attention to the Sixers and watching Allen Iverson and started teaching myself how to dribble through the legs and things like that when I was a kid. That's why. Wavy J, I am 5'10" and 3/4. And give me my 3/4. Yeah. I think that's all I got, man. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for always listening. Thank you for hitting the like button. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for following the Instagram page. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers. Thank you for listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You guys are making this thing, it's just crazy. It's crazy what we've done on YouTube, on the podcast platforms. To be 6 years in and have 3-4 sponsorships and selling merch, and it's crazy. It's crazy. So thank you. And that's it. You guys are the best, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.